Hi, my name is Sandy Brenes, and part of my group who will come in later will be V and Cortez, who will be talking about the just-in-time system. I will start off with the story of the case. The just-in-time system was first implemented in the large-scale manufacturing companies, but for this particular case, they wanted to see how the just-in-time system would take place in the small to medium enterprises. Specifically, the company that was part of this case was Daiko, which is located in Tainan, Taiwan. The company started implementing the just-in-time system in 1990. Daiko is a company that provides different kinds of automobile lamps, and in order to be more competitive, the company decided to implement the just-in-time system. The ideal goal of the just-in-time system is to have the entire production of business cycle operate without interruption and without non-value added time cost. For this case, in particular, there is no exact way to implement the just-in-time system in general. What we get out of this case is that everybody must take part in order for the just-in-time system to work. In particular, for this case, 3 top-level managers were selected to participate in a seminar and then to implement the learned strategies from the cake company. Each manager was put to implement and establish the just-in-time strategy in each of their divisions. The basis of the just-in-time system in this case is the 5 S's, which we will go more into detail about right now. I will just name them. The 5 S's are Seiri, Sekton, Cease, Seiketsu, and Chitsuki. Sorry for my pronunciation. The purpose of the just-in-time system was for the operation system to operate smoothly and improve safety, quality, and productivity. With the implementation came training for our employees to take part and be trained well enough to take action. All managers inspected each other. Well, this started taking place in 1991 when they developed the just-in-time system. So each manager was put in each division and mainly the main floor to inspect all items and mark them using the red card, which put the items that needed more improvement to get sent back to get reworked. The company started using the pull-type production system, which in turn gave them some problems, but the company was able to work with the just-in-time and create a method to reduce the production of unnecessary products and train their employees to clean up, which is very important to point out, was that the employees were getting trained in order to be able to resolve the problem without management, which was very important because time crunch was the most important thing. So the production of unnecessary products and training, the reduction of unnecessary products and training employees to be able to clean up messes was the most important part of being able to implement the system. With the improvements of the plant, other plants followed since their system and the way they run things was a way too far.
Hi everyone, so right now I will talk about Dioku just-in-time implementations method. The foundation of just-in-time implementation would be intensive education, training, and promotions. The Just-in-Time Implementation Committee of Dioku Company has selected assembly works in the rear lamps plant to start with. The first method that they have used would be using the standardization to eliminate overproduction and waiting time of materials. The second step would be providing a rational level of part to eliminate unnecessary spare part and allow the packaging and not moving of materials smoothly. Third step would be implementation of single person and multi-machine scheme on some cells and review the fast change. The implementation of just in time in a small company like Dioku has required a 409 molding activity together with some training. After a small batch production procedure has been implemented and efficiencies of the plant is much more improved, Daiku committee has decided to move on with other plants following the footstep of the rear lamps plant to implement the just-in-time system. Um, as Sandy has mentioned before about the 5S activities, 5S activity has introduced have come to a very useful in this stage of just-in-time implementations to prevent the production of unnecessary products, including parts, products, and documents. Many idle facility are created. Every checkpoint in the company is created with this kind of facility so that worker would not carry out unnecessary tasks accidentally. And the production system is established from the transfer of Kanban of suppliers, product manufacturing of Kanban, part manufacturing of Kanban, and part of purchasing Kanban. Thank you so much for listening to the method of just-in-time implementation. Next will be the analysis of Cortes. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for sending it over to me and Sandy. So I'm going to be talking about the analysis of this JIT case study. It is about a small company in Taiwan that produces automobile lamps. So JIT affects design, accounting, finance, marketing, distribution, and so this case study in particular is talking about small and medium enterprises and their improvement of JIT. So the study was done by two people, by Guna Skaran, a senior lecturer of production operation management at Brunel University with a PhD in industrial engineering and operation research. Also done by Jay Liu, a professor of industrial management science at the National Cheng Kung University in Taiwan. He has a degree in engineering, master's in industrial management, and a PhD in industrial management engineering. So both these authors have exceptional background in operations management and the credentials to perform and accurately analyze a project like this. So the layout of the study was really easy to follow and gave me more insight the further along I read. So good it had a good initial introduction of JIT to give new readers a quick understanding. The introduction shows that JIT has a setup that can have conflicting goals, but how we overcome these goals or how we overcome these obstacles is part of JIT and its process. So, learning all this before this case study gives a good understanding of GIT to readers before getting into the case study at hand, which I really liked. I think it gave a really broad view. So, one thing I really liked in the case study was that they said no standard for implementation. It is always continuous and can always be improved. The recommendations are realistic, as implementing benchmarks are a way to compare the performance of JIT as a recommendation, and it is very achievable. Another thing that they can do is implementing a framework for the level of training needed based on the requirement for the JIT standards. So, one thing is most studies show just the benefits of what is the process at hand. So, one thing I really liked is it shows the shortcomings of JIT, like how changing the assembly line can be too much time, or the requirement of all departments need to operate on the same level of instructions with information sharing at its core. That can be really hard to do across departments like accounting, finance, marketing. You need all this to come together and coordinate, which isn't really realistic all the time. One thing that their implementation did not need to be done is having suppliers use the Kanban system for purchasing. So this kind of just had a snag in purchasing it, delayed the process, and it was confusing for suppliers to purchase using this system because they had never used it. And another thing was the checkpoints. They added extra steps using checkpoints to check the work of employees. None of this was needed. It was like a little extra steps that was just kind of wasteful. One thing I did like was the usual pictures at the end to show an example of the process in play using the Kanban picture. Um, and yes, I would greatly recommend this article for anyone looking for a starting point for JIT. So, relating this to the class, the first thing to do would be to look into the small batch sizes. So, small batch sizes help reduce carrying cost and lower necessary storage. So one thing we can do here is it allows for increased visibility of problems. And then since they're in smaller quantities already when you do order them, when problems do occur, it's easier to fix and there is less that needs to be fixed. So as most small batch lot sizes have a lot of change that is needed based in the assembly line, just short turnover, a single minute exchange should be implemented as it is a system that reduces the time for changeover and can give a lot of extra benefits to the system.